You're listening to the RM Podcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian,
and
Keith Cheatham.
They're all here. We're all here.
Are we?
Ready for another week
Are you here?
of the Red Moon Podcast. Oh, she's here. She's here. Don't worry, guys.
Who?
She made her debut last week, but oh, there she is.
I don't believe you.
She's down there chewing on the rope.
We got a little visitor at our feet.
Of course we do. She's nipping down there.
Make it sound like we got somebody tied up. She's down there chewing on the rope.
We got her down there chewing on the rope. She's trying to escape.
No, that's under
When she
the
gets
crawl
out of hand, we
space.
just kick her. We kick her under the table.
She
Like,
ain't getting out of that one.
the people under the stairs.
put some lotion on its skin, or else it gets the
Terrible
hose
movie.
again.
Hey, come here. Don't go under there. I don't want you to hit the cord. She's trying to be naughty now. She was
there
being
she goes.
good. Uh-oh.
Are you a naughty girl?
The way Keith asked that
naughty,
question.
naughty.
We've got another spectacular show. Of course, the Red Moon mascot, yes, is beneath our feet. I would pick her up, but, well, she's on that side of the table.
Little
and
Edie.
She's choosing favorites right now, and I don't like the odds.
Yeah.
Yeah, she likes us.
She likes you all, not me.
Our fingers smell like brownie.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that might be
what? You all had brownie? Brian had brownies
We had
over there?
brownies.
homemade,
Thanks, Brian.
hot straight out of
Thanks,
the oven.
Kristen.
And
Y'all
potato
never
soup.
send food
It was
over anymore.
amazing.
You just don't like
You
me.
could walk over there when you first get home and get
No,
some.
I can't. I've got to take care of a dog now.
Yeah, he has
No, she was-
responsibility.
That's true.
She was a good pup today, though. Sean got here first, started plugging some things in and charging them, and
Yeah.
she did not make a mess.
Nope.
He started plugging things in holes and went from there.
Well, and hey, what more can you ask for?
That's right.
That's a good friend right
That's
there.
what I'm here for.
You just ask them to plug in things, and they start plugging
You want
away.
something in your hole, and I'll put it in there.
Put it in.
Well, thank you, Sean.
Plug it
I
in,
appreciate-
plug it in.
Oh no, she's pouncing on something.
She's being frisky this week.
I'm watching the cords. Is
That's
what I'm worried
that's
about.
what I'm worried about. I'm more
Yeah.
worried about that. If we go off air, well,
It was Edith's fault.
we know who to blame.
Yeah.
Edith von Velma Bishop Peebles. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. No, we've got a good store. Good store.
good
good
store.
show in store.
One day we might have
We're
a
gonna
store.
have a good store.
We're
One
hoping
day.
we'll
But
be
we-
selling all that merch
I
someday.
agree. It's a very heavier show, I think, this week. But
It is.
It's still good. And
A
I
little
mean, and I
bit.
think it's nice to have.
We don't shy away from the controversy around here.
No.
People know
I'm just
that.
saying, it's
Yeah.
nice to have like some good subjects because
Yeah.
this last year, really good articles have been kind of slim pickings, and most of it's been,
Yeah.
theaters are shut down, Corona
Pretty
killing the
much.
industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's not anybody's fault, other than that's been most of the news for all
Yeah,
of
I mean,
2020.
exactly. We don't pick the news. Well, we pick what news we want to talk about, but we don't pick the news that's coming out every day. And honestly, I will say,
Are you saying? You mean we pick what we? Are you saying that we
what?
we
we,
only
we produce what it is that we think
We-
is newsworthy?
we choose? We don't. Are you trying to say we alter the news to benefit what we want people to know?
No. We're not CNN.
No. We're not fake news.
That's right.
Okay. We
We give you the truth, just only what we want to tell you.
Yeah.
see. We're just honest about our deceit
Right.
and our bias.
Oh yeah.
No, we don't deceive, but we do have bias. And that's the difference between us and the mainstream media. That's right. You can believe us here on the
We're
Red
out
Moon
in the open
Podcast.
about what we believe in.
Yeah, we
We've
give
never-
you
we've never strayed
our
away.
opinions and our thoughts. We tell you exactly what we think here on the show, which is why we decided to review Judas and the Black Messiah. 3 white dudes talking about another black movie. I mean, why not?
Well,
To be
it's-
fair,
you know, it's all that's out right now, and it's
It is the newest movie. It's
Right.
gotten a lot of
It's
critical
got a lot of
Oscar
acclaim.
buzz. Yeah.
It's talk about Oscars. I do
Well,
think it's
and
a
here's
better
the
pick
thing.
than some of the other movies that they keep saying are
Yes.
possible contenders.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Especially
So-
one that I know that, Keith, you were reading off the list of.
Trial of the Chicago.
Yeah,
I was talking to
no.
Sean about that. I
This
don't-
is a way
Duh,
better
Five
movie.
Bloods.
more. Yeah.
Yes.
More people
no.
had Trial of the Chicago 7 and The Five Bloods as their picks than this movie, and I can't fathom how that's possible.
Well-
You say it way more jive than me.
Duh,
I
Five
say
Bloods.
it way white. I'm like, duh, Five Bloods.
Look, look. This is
I
really
just-
what Spike
You're like
Lee's
the Five Bloods.
Spike Lee's intention. The whole title of the movie was just to be like, I'm gonna make white people sound funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Duh, 5 Bloods. I mean,
I actually wanted to win an Oscar just so that they'll say that.
Oh, yes, I do.
I can
Yes.
see somebody on the, and the winner is Duh 5 Bloods. Come
Put
up
John
here, Spike
Travolta up
Lee.
there.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
Duh of Zim of the Bloods.
Duh, 5 Bloods.
Duh
like,
Five Bloods.
It's like Dia Cinco Hematology. It's like, what is he talking about?
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
No, this is a much better pick, and this is a
Spit my
much.
coffee out.
Wow.
I was going to take a drink and I was like, I can't.
Well, it's just funny because I'm like, what we could do is skip over this movie entirely, and then we'd be accused of never ever watching like a black, centric film. And
Well,
the fact is,
we
that's-
definitely
that-
have, and we've definitely
Yeah.
praised.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we loved.
Yeah.
Me and Sean both loved 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, yeah.
Fences. We've all.
Fences. This
Fences
is
is
yes,
fantastic.
that's one of the best movies
Me
I've
and
ever
you,
seen.
Sean didn't care for it, but me and you
Yeah,
like
I
Ma
like
Rainey.
Ma Rainey.
So,
Yeah.
But I
now
just
we're-
think it's funny because I'm like, I'd rather be accused of at least watching a film that is considered, culturally black versus trying to shy away from it and act like we're
I've watched
either above
Medea,
that or we don't want
okay?
to touch
Don't
it.
go there.
Medea's Boo, Halloween.
That was
Yeah.
a hilarious. Listen, it's not a good movie, but it is a hilarious.
no, it's
movie.
not. Don't even.
It is hilarious.
I don't like
gosh.
any of them.
It's
I
not
don't-
good, but it's hilarious.
No,
It is.
No.
I died laughing.
Barbershop was funny.
Barbershop is
I
actually
thought that
that's
was
funny
funny.
and good though. See,
When Cedric the Entertainer's
Medea's
like, we all know
bad.
OJ did it. I mean, I will say it's a pretty good movie.
I miss Cedric.
All right, let's stop being 3 white dudes trying to be black. Okay, let's stop it right now.
I don't try to be.
We
what
need to
I'm
we need to
not.
accept our cultural privilege. Okay, here on the Red Moon Podcast. And I guess we're ready to start the show. We've got a good one in store. Of course, Judas and the Black Messiah review. We are talking about one headline this week. It's a big one, though. It dropped early last week after our show. You saw it there in
It's
the
been
headlines.
the biggest thing in the news all week. I mean, people
Gina
haven't
Carano.
stopped talking about.
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
And
there's more and more
tons
that
of
keeps
backlash.
coming out. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, just
Oh, back and forth.
tons to get into there. That's going to be all we talk about in our headline segment this week. And, of course, our multimedia segment, we're wrapping up talking about our final thoughts and feelings on The Stand, the miniseries. Where did it fall?
Well, it didn't stand.
The stand.
It fell. That's true.
But until we get to that point in our show, it is time, finally, for, yes, another fine Red Moon review. Here is our review of Judas and the Black Messiah.
It's a little later than usual, but Oscar season is finally upon us. Nominees will be announced March 15th, with films needing to have released by the end of the month to be eligible. With less than 2 weeks left in the month, most of the series contenders for Best Picture have already been released, with one of the last to receive Oscar talk having released this past weekend in theaters and on HBO Max. This movie, Judas and the Black Messiah, is a quasi-biopic of Fred Hampton, chairman of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panthers, and William O'Neill, the FBI informant who betrayed Hampton, leading to his death. Starring Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton and Lakeith Stanfield as William Bill O'Neill, the film starts off right away with the arrest of O'Neill and the offer from the FBI to become an informant, spying on Fred Hampton. Following O'Neill and Hampton's relationship as they grow closer as friends and allies, the movie showcases many of the bigger achievements in Hampton's career. Showcasing the Free Breakfast for Children program and the formation of Hampton's Rainbow Coalition, the movie also depicts Hampton's speeches, the FBI's questionable and unconstitutional methods of trying to silence Hampton, and ultimately the betrayal by O'Neill and the shootout between the police that led to Hampton's death. The movie is well made, directed by Shaka King, who also co-wrote the film. The movie's set pieces, costume design, and cinematography are all Oscar quality. Kaluuya and Stanfield give phenomenal performances as Hampton and O'Neill, and we do get a sense of who Hampton was and his death and achievements. The movie offers up plenty of thought-provoking material, not shying away from some of the Black Panther organization's rougher edges and violent tactics. It neither defends nor decries the motives, only showcasing the story through the lens of those who lived it, giving us their motivations and ideals. Whether you agree or disagree with them is up to you, for the most part. While mostly straightforward, the filmmakers do have a side they come down on, as all people will, and while it is obvious where those who made the film stand, I never felt like it was forced down my throat to make the same stance. The film isn't perfect. there are certainly political aspects of the film I disagree with, and felt other points of view outside of Hampton and O'Neill's could have been extrapolated on. Though this was also not the point of the film. What we receive can be enlightening, however, and does offer us more shades of gray to a narrative that has often been one-sided in the past. As a biopic of Hampton and O'Neill's relationship and the death of Hampton, the film does succeed, though it doesn't quite stand out enough to earn Best Picture in my eyes. I give Judas and the Black Messiah 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars for Judas and the Black Messiah.
Couldn't
Let's talk
agree
about it,
more.
guys.
Yeah, I actually do like the movie.
agree.
The acting, like both of the main actors, Daniel Kaluuya and what's it, the guy that played
Stanfield?
O'Neill, Stanfield, yes,
Yeah.
Lakeith Stanfield. Both of them were great.
Which he
They
was
were
the same
terrific.
guy, correct me if I'm wrong, he's in Get Out.
Yeah, they were
isn't
both
he?
in Get
Yes.
Out, and I think they were
Okay.
both in another film. And I'm drawing a blank on what film.
Yeah, I think they.
but I think they were both in another film together too.
Okay.
So they've got they already have good.
Good on-screen
Screen
chemistry.
chemistry, yeah.
Absolutely. But keep going.
No, I was just saying that I thought they both did phenomenal jobs performance-wise. Sean had mentioned the music, and I agree.
Oh, the music is
score
Fantastic.
awesome.
was
Yep.
fantastic. The set pieces, being a period piece, I know it's not that far in the past, but still, the set pieces.
No,
look
but it's
great.
hard to nail that.
Yes,
it really
it
is.
is.
And I've seen it. I think I've garnered more attention to detail to that
Mm-hmm.
attention to detail. And I applaud anybody who gets it because look, I've seen too many TV shows
That look
where they
awful.
set it in a time period,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, no,
They
you
look,
all.
they look like plays.
Yes.
Like, honestly,
Yeah.
like I've seen so many
Exactly.
movies, like not just TV shows.
They don't
like you
feel
said,
like
but
they're
even
actually
movies.
lived
My wife
in.
and I have just recently been talking about that because we watched The Queen's Gambit, and
Yeah.
I feel like that show has it amazed me at
Oh,
how
yes.
well it captured that time period.
Yes.
And just from the set pieces to the costumes, like I just and I don't know if it's as I get older or what, but I started paying more attention to that kind of stuff in films.
Yes.
And it's weird because it goes
I
into
honestly, I
it
think-
goes into my criticism of a film if
Oh, absolutely.
If it
it's
doesn't do
not,
it well.
yeah, if it doesn't
Yeah.
fit, and I'm just like, no, they didn't have that back then, or
yes.
they didn't
Sure,
dress
yeah.
that way, they didn't use those kind of
Well, I
definitely
think it's
words.
honestly more so now because so many either get it wrong.
yeah.
You know, I've especially
I
could
say
tell in the
set pieces
90s.
and costume design. Yes, 90s.
90s
yeah.
because we grew up in the 90s.
Movies in the
I
90s.
definitely
Yeah.
can tell now
Well, I'm
when
just
they
saying
try to
movies
just
made in the 90s too are often like
Yes.
other than like Forrest Gump, I feel like nailed it. But I mean, it also is a Best Picture winner. There's so
Right.
many
Right.
movies. I
Yeah.
said that with
Oh,
about,
yes.
like Little Women. The new version of Little Women nailed it. The one by Greta Gerwig. The 90s version looked awful.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
If
So-
you see a period piece set now or set in the 90s that is being done now,
Now, yes.
but then you go and watch like some kind of popular movie back then that was
Mm-hmm.
truly set in that time period, you can't sit there and tell me it's like we have tons of footage now
Well,
from that time period
good-
that showcases what it should
looked
look
like.
like. You can't not get away with just
a good
being,
example,
half-assed.
because I mentioned this to you just yesterday, is that was one thing I liked about the new episode of WandaVision is like I was like they got the 90s right.
Yes,
they got
they,
the
they
90s
did.
right.
They nailed that one.
And I felt like this movie really did get that period right. The cinematography was good. I mean, on all technical aspects, like it's definitely an Oscar-worthy movie.
No doubt.
And for me, like I would have almost been willing to give it 3.5 stars. What just detracted that half star, and it might be a little nitpicky for because at the same time, like it's not really what the movie was about. But I wish like it had also showcased kind of the other side of the coin. Like this movie really shows you Fred Hampton and O'Neill and like a lot of
it
the
portrays them in a more positive light.
Yeah, it does, but it also shows you their perspective. So of course they would be positive
Of course,
from their
yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
And there's many people who did support them and still support them today. Not just Fred Hampton himself, because I do agree there were things he did that were good, but there's also things that I feel like he
Very
incited.
questionable.
So
Yes.
it didn't show the more violent side
Yes,
of the Panthers.
there are things he incited and things that the group did that are not always good at all.
Yeah.
That I felt like the movie kind of sugarcoated, and I wish like they had shown, because it's a little it's kind of like I feel like just insincere when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
showing
Well, here's
only
the
the
thing.
good when
And-
you know
and
that
one,
they
one
were
thing I
capable
liked,
of other things as well.
Look, I'll be honest. I came at this film expecting a certain kind of narrative. I mean, the name of the film is Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I immediately, of course, just from you know, I know it's trying to be edgy. I know it's trying to be controversial. I get the whole reason it's named that, and understandably why the themes that run throughout this film, why they called it that.
I mean, the title makes sense.
Right. But I don't necessarily, obviously, it was like just the whole Black Messiah. I'm just sitting here thinking, well, there's only one Messiah.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, that gets off into the whole,
Right,
you know,
right.
you can start knocking off points for that. I didn't. But I will say, one thing I loved about this film, and I was kind of talking about it during the review while it was playing, I liked the fact that this, you know, we've seen so many films now come out within the last year that are hitting right now because of what's going on culturally.
Yes.
And what I liked about this film, especially it being a period piece and being set in the time period it was, is it is inspired by true events, so it has to pull from history. And so there's something you can fact check it on based on, again, the facts that were given
actually happened,
and what actually happened. And again, also what this movie's trying to point out, which is there's some things that weren't told back then because necessarily that wasn't kosher. That wasn't what wanted that people didn't want to get out. But ultimately what I liked about this film was that it had nuance. And it had things that went deeper and so deeper messages within the themes throughout the film that I think a lot of, you know, films like the you know, Da 5 Bloods and other films like a couple years back, Black Klansman,
Oh,
you know,
God.
they specifically
Anything from Spike Lee.
well, of course, because again, I think to me, he can get away with a milquetoast story, but because it is accentuated, to me that he's more of an example of blaxploitation today than I think someone like this, which actually delves into history from a black perspective.
I agree. That's what
and
I like,
I appreciate.
too.
I mean, the one scene that really capped it for me was a situation where, you know, minor spoiler, Fred Hampton is sitting here talking to his pregnant, you know, woman. I'm hoping
mama.
Baby mama, but I guess
Yeah.
they're going to get married.
Yeah.
But the thing is she's sitting here having conflict with and writing poems in her diary about, you know, do I give up this life of activism to be a mother, to give everything I can to this child? And she confronts him with it. And you see this struggle in her eyes, and then, you know, her confronting it with him. And then you honestly see, you know, was he a good guy? Was he a bad guy? Because the film presents this message of he has a choice, and he's choosing specifically, even once this kid is born, his sole purpose, he believes, is to be an activist. And to see the rise of
A revolution.
A revolution.
Well, I agree.
But I immediately it brought in this whole perspective of, and also even who O'Neill is, you know, in the film and his whole storyline. I just felt like they did a very good job of showcasing a lot more depth in the story
another
than just it
example-
being plain simple. Here's our message. Here's what we want to spout. This hits home culturally right now. That's why it's a great
it's
film.
not that I felt like they never showed when like he did something questionable, because it did. They did show the speeches where he's like, you know, kill the pigs, and then of course, but they also came back with that with the guy bringing the bombs, and he was like, oh no, that's too much. So they tried to play kind of both sides a little bit, but you could always tell which side they really fell on, and I mean, that's with any filmmaker. I mean,
for me, and again, I don't know. I know that the speech that Kaluuya does so well in the film, that is like word for word. It is a real speech, and I understand that. But it's kind of when you show him giving the speech about killing cops and doing it for satisfaction, because that's exactly what he says. Like, you need to, you know, and but then like you said, in that one scene, the guy shows up with C4 in the trunk, and he's like, no, you need to get that out of here. That's too much. I kind of feel like you're showing the indifference of that character, and I don't know if that's how he was in real life. Like, was he just spouting out this stuff to try to be somebody and start this revolution, or was he really prepared to do the very things that he was giving a speech about? Was he prepared to shoot a cop in the street and bring revolution to the you know, and bring blood in the streets?
Was it only a matter of time?
Or was it just him trying to give this, you know, charismatic speech and get everybody else to do the dirty work for him? And I couldn't see which guy he was trying to be because of that flip-flopping back and forth. And I think that's real, because people are, you know, people have two sides to the coin. And we're all imperfect people.
Exactly. Night and day.
Right. And like you said, Keith, there's a lot of great things that he did do for that community, and I think that's the story of all of us. You got you know, imperfect people doing, you know, good things and doing bad things, but I couldn't get a grasp on his character, because of the flip flop back and forth.
And I'll be honest, it's kind of, I'll plead ignorance here. It's like one thing I also loved about this film, which I think we talked about kind of with The Dig last week, is the fact that, The Dig wasn't necessarily a great film, but it made you want to know about the history behind it.
Yes. Yeah.
And this one actually was a good film that also made me want to know the history about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like in also looking into the history of this film and what was kind of, I guess more real and true versus what was embellished.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think one thing I loved about this film too was, again, at the very beginning, you get a very central message of what he aims to do with the black community. But then I also love how he's just like, we can't do this alone as the Black Panther Party. Then he goes to one of the gangs that runs an area. Then he goes to a redneck
Rainbow
area.
Coalition,
And he creates this Rainbow Coalition. And I'm sitting here, and that was one of the things I looked up after the film. Turns out that was true.
Oh, yeah.
And it was almost as if he really was trying to build ultimately what I agreed with him on, maybe not in all of his actions, because, again, I don't know enough of history about him. But I understood his idea of bringing down those who are in power just in spite of others who are without power,
Right,
and
right.
those who are following
Well,
the
that
establishment.
goes into this. My favorite scene in the movie was when he does go to the
different groups.
to the redneck group.
Yeah.
And they've got the Confederate flag standing up there behind them, and all of those people. This was something that I actually appreciated because I'm not a rebel flag kind of person at all, But I believe if that's their heritage, then they're welcome to fly that flag or banner or whatever. But the fact that the guy points out, like, we have this flag up behind us because it's where we come from, or but it's nothing against you. Like, we don't mean it personally. Like, nobody in there except for one guy that has a little bit of an attitude,
he gets offended by it.
Gets offended by it, and it's just like.
But even when he speaks out, Hampton comes at him and is like, quiet.
Yes.
quiet down.
Yeah. So it was. I really enjoyed that scene where he starts walking around the room and pointing out to all the white people there, hey, you're in the same boat we're in. And I appreciate that he saw that.
Yes.
He saw that these people are impoverished too. These people are growing up in
We all
communities
want
with
the
violence
same
too.
things.
Well,
Exactly.
Again, they had more things to worry about and more concerns.
More in common.
They had more things. But I'm just saying, they knew that they had more in common and more things that were more important than some silly flag. Like, today, people nitpick over stupid stuff because they have nothing better to argue about.
Well, again,
They
and
saw the bigger picture.
Back
and,
then, they knew it's like they were fighting for civil rights, and they knew, like, we need help.
they knew the difference between semantics and what the overhead would
They
want.
knew what the bigger picture
and think
really
about it.
was.
I love the scene where he meets up with the first group that he meets up with is the gang that has like control over this huge area of Chicago.
Yeah.
And his first initiative is to go in there and say, look, we can do more together than apart.
Right.
And the guy holds up a flyer and he's like, but you've been spreading this crap. And he's like, that ain't me. That's the FBI.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yep.
you know what they're doing. They're
Propaganda.
trying
Yep.
to create this antagonizing group of us versus each other than trying to band together. And that's exactly what the FBI was trying to thwart. And I could totally see that especially with the culture that's going on today.
Yes. Yeah.
More than race, it's more so ideology. And when you have that ideological bent of the lesser thans against the big corporate overlords, against the government and those who have more power because of centralized government, to me, again, the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen.
And
you had
exactly
that message
like
throughout
those
this
with power,
movie.
the big corporations. And that's why they try to pit the smaller people against each other. They're not dumb. I mean, that's
No.
one thing
Oh,
I agree.
yeah.
That's one
They're
thing about
sowing
the movie.
the seeds of hatred
That's one thing I agree about the movie
intentionally.
is with the FBI and all that. There's so many times we've seen corruption with the FBI and bigger corporate. I mean,
no doubt.
corporations that I believe that full-heartedly. Like, I don't think that. I don't have a doubt about that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I also think that's part of, even though that may not be the main message this film is trying to drive home.
No, but
that was that made me want to watch it even further, was when they started to dive into that deeper part of it. Because again, I do think that's a common thread that when you break it down on all levels apart from race, it is the banding together of the common folk who have the daily struggles that we go through to try to thwart those who are in power and those who think that they somehow. I mean, that's why I loved about the conversations between O'Neill and the FBI agent. And you can tell the FBI agent's just trying to do his job, but at the same time, he knows he's manipulating this guy.
Absolutely.
He knows that he's trying to drive a wedge between him and his own community, and he's even telling them, don't fall in line with this. Don't believe it. You're going to start hearing things that you think you like.
Well, he even
but
tries
don't be
to
deceived.
use black culture against the guy. He
Yes.
says, like, we all want the same piece. We all want the same thing, but this is how you get it. This
Right.
is not how you get it.
Right.
And he even like talks about Martin Luther King and things like that. And I'm like, you're using something that is emotional to this person because of the
Absolutely.
color of their skin, and using it to drive to like rev up an emotion
Right.
that's going to benefit you.
And that's that manipulation.
Exactly, yeah.
I absolutely believe the same thing still happens today.
Oh, no
Oh,
doubt.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's funny because it's like you have, I think, governments and you have, government entities like the CIA, like the FBI, these entities that are using those manipulative tactics, and they know that. I mean, this is what they study. This is how they invade information and how they get through what it is they're looking for. But I think you even have on a corporate side of it being exploited, not because I think, oh, all these corporations get together and think maniacally, but they also they ultimately think, how can we get the target off our back? And the one way they can do that is, as long as we keep you satisfied, as long as we keep you and your appetite fed on these mundane things, well, then you'll bicker amongst each other about the simplest, stupidest things.
People in power, well, that's what they fear most is the people.
Yes.
Because people in power are afraid to lose.
Exactly.
Especially when you're lifetime have that position, when you have some of these people in the Senate. And people that,
Yeah.
you're
50 plus years.
That is
Yeah.
what you fear the most,
corruption.
is losing that power. And you're
Yes.
going to do what you can to keep it.
Yep.
48 for our president. Excuse me.
But no, I completely agree. I think ultimately, to me, that's what outshined in this movie the most. And again, the cultural atrocities that took place back then, no doubt, the raid on the apartment that happens at the end of the film, and that is true to the events. I even looked down to the exact words that were given by the witness of his baby mama.
Excuse me.
As far as Hampton and what happens to him. And I thought, again, all of that attention to detail I thought was great throughout the film. I think there are obviously some other cultural, racial threads that people will pull from this film, and rightfully so. I think the filmmakers absolutely want that.
Yeah.
But I was grateful for the overarching messages and themes that I think came out of the overall message that I think Fred Hampton today would even be fighting for, if he was still alive. I know his son is still out there fighting for, with the Black Panther Party, and they're still doing some kind of work. But ultimately, I do think that this message of this film transcends beyond even just the racial barriers that it may think are what are heavy hitting. I think it's a way better film than that.
Yeah.
Which is why it stands above.
It's definitely one that I do understand why the Oscar talk. I think it definitely deserves it more than some of the other movies we've been hearing the Oscar buzz around.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed. And for all the other reasons too, technical and
yeah,
cinematography and production design. Absolutely.
I pay attention to the simplest camera movement in some films that blow me away, and every now and then I'll see one, like we were reviewing the early Oscar movies, one of the first ones we did where they did the shot of the swing on the swing or whatever. No, like the first Oscar
Wings.
winners.
Wings
did that.
Wings,
Yeah,
yes.
there's so many things like that. But even in this movie, there's a shot where Lakeith is coming across the street, and the camera follows him across the street and then goes over the hood of the car, the roof of the car,
Yes.
and onto the other side of the car. And it just baffles me
How they're able to do it.
How do they do that? They can't do that with, I guess they did it with a large
it's
boom
a gimbal.
or a gimbal,
It's a
but it's
gimbal.
just like, man, how did they track that so smooth and go over the roof of the car and come around on the other side of the car to make it look like whoever's holding this camera like literally
It's
had to
just
climb over
floating
the
through
car.
the-
It's
yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
And there's so many things like that in this film that do set the cinematography kind of apart, especially for a film like this. Like you can imagine movies with rolling landscapes and war scenes and stuff to have good cinematography, like 1917 and stuff like that. But a movie about the Black Panthers and in this era to have such amazing cinematography, I just love it. Like I pay attention to that stuff, and I really love the cinematography in the film. But
Absolutely. No doubt. Absolutely worth the 3 out of 4 stars that we gave it.
we're all in agreement.
If you have HBO Max, check it out. It's worth it. It's absolutely.
It's on an HBO Max in 4K.
Well,
was it? I didn't even notice that it was in 4K.
Well, every new release.
They say HD, but I guess when they stream, it does come through in 4K. When
Well,
you
mine
actually
said-
go to start it, it
Mine
says
says-
HD.
Mine said 4K.
Really?
Yeah, where are you
Well, my
watching yours
TV
on?
says 4K.
No, I mean on the
But yeah, when I clicked it on HBO Max, it just
no,
said
yeah, on
HD.
HBO, like if I look on my PS4, like it says
Yeah.
4K on there.
Huh.
So,
Well, maybe that's the PS4 app. The Roku app doesn't do
doesn't
that.
have it, yeah.
But then
Well,
when it
some of the
comes
apps don't
through on the
have
TV,
4K.
the TV says,
It's actually
2480 or
correct.
Yeah,
4K.
they're all of the movies that they're new releases that are
yeah.
going to be
Wonder Woman was the same way.
theatrical and
It's just a shit movie.
yeah. Well, it's I didn't
it was
realize
definitely not
this,
worth watching.
and it does say it, but these movies they're releasing that are coming to HBO Max and theater at the same time are only on there for about a month. Wonder Woman's not on there
Yeah,
anymore.
30 days.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
because
didn't
it does
know
say
that.
that it's a streaming until.
Yeah.
Because this one says until March something, and
Oh.
I didn't realize that because it's only for the theatrical.
They're trying to
window.
save grace with the theaters.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can give them credit for that. I mean, we're going to catch every
Well,
single one of them.
it'll eventually be back on HBO Max after
Right.
the theatrical.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I can't blame them. I mean, heck, we're freaking February, and we're still in the middle of winter theaters going to get back to normal.
They're talking about pushing movies
So-
back again because they don't
Of
know.
course.
I mean, things are supposed to start coming out in April, and it's almost. I mean, it's getting close.
Hey, you can thank
Yep.
the government and the lockdowns. Just saying, all right, guys, I think it's ready in time. We're going to do some more pissing on the government.
Yes.
And this all things
Pissing
cancel
on
culture.
Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. So let's get into, yes, the headlines for this week. Headlines. See, don't you love it?
I do.
Don't you just love when that lands like that? We got one major headline we're talking about that this week, and that is, of course, cancel culture continues. I know people out there are tired of this. They think it's a farce. They don't think cancel culture is a thing.
It exists, but before we get into it, I just want to say I
Yeah,
just watched
go ahead.
Edie just kind of flop down over there.
Oh, she did. I
You
don't know
could
if
totally
I.
see her in the shot. It was
Oh yeah. Oh,
it was
you
adorable.
could.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
She just rolled over
get
there.
another wide shot of her.
I was
Oh,
only
there
watching
she
her because
is.
at first I thought she was about to chew on those wires over there, but then she just laid down.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
that coax cable coming out of the ground. I
It
mean, I
goes
don't want to
nowhere.
get rid of it.
It just doesn't go to anything.
Yeah.
Right
It doesn't, but I
Yeah.
know she could chew on it. But she's only in here for the
Yeah.
show. I don't
Yeah.
let her in here
She's
normally.
snoozing now.
She's just out.
She's not canceled.
No,
You don't cancel
Well,
Edie.
you can't cancel dogs. I think the
Yeah.
internet would lose it at that.
Jeff he said that Dave Chappelle's like Sticks and Stones thing on, I think it's on Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah.
He says that nails the problems with cancel culture, and I
Yes.
agree.
Damn
I've seen
right.
that.
Yes,
Well, and
It
he
is.
actually had some good news recently.
Oh, it's
it's
he
back
got,
to
he got his rights
name.
back.
Yeah,
Dave
his rights to the
Chappelle-
Chappelle
to the
show.
Chappelle show.
When
yeah.
Netflix pulled it and everybody protested, he said that they finally called him up. Not Netflix, Time Warner, who owned the rights.
Yeah.
They gave him the rights to his own name because he couldn't use his own name
Yeah.
in material, and to the Chappelle show. And now he has it all, and he's gotten paid, and they put it back on Netflix since they gave him the
Good.
stuff.
Oh
back.
wow.
Good. It's
So I'm
awesome.
like, so sometimes,
heck yeah, man.
so sometimes, yeah, speaking out does help. I mean, we've seen that with Dave Chappelle, and we're seeing it with our topic we're about to talk about now.
So
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
here's the thing. We had a comment. I don't want to butcher it. On the, I had it as jokingly cancel culture in reverse because right after it was announced last week that Gina Carano was fired from The Mandalorian from Disney Plus
for tweeting again.
for tweeting.
Lord forbid
yeah.
you tweet stuff.
Again, exactly. And
Lord
anybody,
forbid you have free speech.
well, and anybody who's sitting there arguing that she was a bad employee, that she tweeted things that were atrocious.
Here's what I've seen the most.
We're gonna read the
Oh, yeah.
freaking
This is what I
tweets.
said. They've said
It's ridiculous
this
that
is
you're
what-
up in arms over this.
This is what everybody keeps trying to
Freaking
argue.
pansies.
They said she got 4 warnings. She tweeted because there were 4 different incidents where I'm like, yeah, but every single incident that she got a warning for were for stupid, ridiculous things.
They tried to make her issue apologies for them. Like
Which is
they wrote
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Disney wrote apologies for her to deliver, and she did, and she refused
And then
to
they
do
didn't
it.
even fire her in person. She found out on social media. That's how she found out she didn't
Yeah.
have a job anymore. Is
Yeah.
when they posted
Yes,
it.
that's
she-
the
which-
most
that was-
recent news.
That was the most recent
Yeah.
news that dropped. Was
And
she
I'm like,
found out when
that's
everybody
just-
else did.
That's like a slap in the
Let
face,
alone
too.
Pedro Pascal,
you
who's
know-
also had questionable tweets,
Yeah.
who had one from who did exactly the same thing, compared Nazi Germany to what was going on here in America, which
It
it
wasn't
found out
even in
it wasn't
America.
even an American
Picture, yeah.
It
camp.
was in the Middle East.
Yeah.
They were Muslim kids.
Honestly, his wasn't even as bad as one of the producers that worked for Disney. I forget the
which
guy's
was
name.
awful.
That he
And
had
this guy's still working
he
for
still
Disney.
works for Disney. He had an image, and I don't care what side of the aisle you come down on. This is sick.
Kathy Lee Griffin
It was
holding
a
Trump's
pic-
severed head
Yes,
bad.
I think it's worse than that.
Wow.
because
I
it was
agree.
a picture of someone holding a child in a wood chipper, and he posted MAGA kids go into the wood chipper head first. And I'm like, I don't care
Wow.
whether you're a
I didn't know about that.
Oh,
one.
this guy's still a
Jesus.
producer
and it
at
has,
Disney.
it has
Wow.
like blood flying out of the wood chipper. He's a Disney producer. It's supposed to be a family company.
Can you pull that image up?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'll pull it up.
Let's get some
pull it up
shock
on my
value on the show.
Wow.
Yeah, because it ticks me off because
Yeah.
it don't matter if you're not a Trump supporter,
The
if
hypocrisy.
you don't believe in MAGA,
Yes.
to even joke about putting
Yeah.
someone's kids in a wood chipper
Yeah.
because their parents support someone you don't support is
Right.
sick.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what I
She's
wanted
a conservative, and that's her
Yes.
crime.
She is, but she's
That's
never
exactly
made
what it
any
is.
post as sick as that and to lose her job.
I was telling Brian about it next door, and I was mentioning the fact that here she is, a female and a former MMA fighter, and I'm like, what says like female empowerment more than a freaking MMA fighter
Exactly.
woman? And then she's a movie star after that, and it's like you're taking this person who should be held up as someone who has made strides for women.
Yep.
And tearing them down just simply because
Because they don't agree
Yeah.
with your politics.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. What this is really about is you're not on the right side.
I have it up. It's Jack Morrissey. I couldn't remember his name.
Okay.
Jack Morrissey. He posted this back in like January of 2019. That's how long ago it was.
Show.
And he did apologize. He came out because he got in trouble for it, and he apologized, and that was the end of it. He
Right.
apologized. They never did anything else to him. Still has his job 2 years ago.
An apology will only do on the left. So this is what he
Good
showed.
shot.
MAGA kids go screaming hats first into the wood chipper.
Yep.
And then he's got a little drawing of a guy
image
throwing a kid in a wood chipper with
with
blood
blood
squirting
spraying
out
out.
all over the place.
Oh my God.
But hey, you know what?
Yeah, that's okay. Like
That's
it's
completely
not
worthy.
okay, but he apologized so he could keep his job. I'm like, no, I'm
But-
sorry.
But,
that is
but
nowhere.
literally the tweets that we're about to read from
Yeah.
Gina Carano are not allowed to exist. And I can't remember if the article that you sent me, the original article, I don't know if it contains the tweets because heaven forbid people actually show the tweets that
Well, I
she
mean,
said
I could
since
go-
they're so offensive.
Well, one of them had to do with she was talking about when you're pitting the neighbors against each other. That's how basically she alluded to the fact that's how Nazi Germany started. Is like you make people distrust their neighbor, and that's how you gain support and start
Yeah.
doing what you want to do.
Right.
And it's not an untrue statement. Is it a little crass to compare what's going on right now to Nazi Germany? A little bit, because it's not quite the same. But it's a true statement that if you let things continue down a certain route and you're not cautious, that yes, it could lead to something bad. So
Right.
what she says is not untrue. It's just not maybe the most professional thing to do, but it's definitely nowhere near as bad as throwing children into a wood chipper.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's kind of what sadly I don't know if
Well, it's even if you're Pedro Pascal, if you're going to show this image and you're going to
It was no worse
claim
than what
it-
he did.
Well,
yeah.
the thing is the picture was from 2010. It wasn't even from the Trump era,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even from this country. So it's not Hispanic
yeah.
kids
I was gonna
coming
say,
across
no-
the border.
no
it was
fact checks
people in
anywhere on that
Afghanistan or somewhere like that, and it's like, you know,
It
you're
showed-
not even.
It showed kids in cages
I have-
that were smiling,
and
it
then
showed,
kids in concentration
Of course,
camps.
the
concentration
internet
camps.
will let you
and it said
see-
hashtag This Is America.
Because
Yeah.
they
That
gotta
was
make her look-
exactly what Pedro Pascal put on
Yeah.
his Twitter feed back in 2010, and then this
I
is
have
what
all her
she
tweets.
recently. Oh, you do? Okay,
There's
yeah.
a-
Go ahead.
they
And
Oh
have
read
no,
it.
articles.
he didn't do it in 2010. He did it just
Oh yes,
recently.
the photo
The
was
photo
from
was from
the photo was from
2010.
2010.
That's right.
New York Post has like all the tweets because they have to. Sorry, I moved it over to.
Yeah,
show
go. Yeah,
that.
please read them.
But,
if you
um,
have them.
Let's see. Here's the most written one.
This
which
is the one
states-
that apparently got her fired, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, because she did post, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?
You
Right,
know,
no,
and
I-
here's
It's
the
not an
irony.
untrue statement.
It's not an
untrue.
untrue statement. No.
And here's the irony in all of this. They did exactly
What she just
what
said.
she just said.
Yeah.
They got rid of
censored her
Yep.
for
they
her
censored
political
her,
views.
and they said you no
Right.
longer get a job. And look, I'm not sitting here saying Disney doesn't have the right to fire. Of course they do. But then we had the right after that, cancel Disney Plus started trending, and rightfully so, because at the end of the day,
Would you let me go through some of the? Because they have a bunch of them on
oh,
here.
go,
They
yeah,
want,
go
they
ahead.
Want everyone,
let's read them all.
I
To
say,
be fair,
they want
Let's do it
everyone to
all.
know how
Yes.
despicable she is.
Of course.
Another one they said was wrong. It was because she
These are panty
she
waves,
bought
man.
into
the
the-
freaking culture we live in these days.
She bought into the Epstein conspiracy and tweeted, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So that apparently was
I mean, that's
offense.
true. There's nothing. Nope. Fact check. True. He didn't hang himself.
Yeah. Well, you know.
I mean, the way he did it, it's almost physically impossible. But
Then this was a big one. I remember when this happened. This happened like back in August. It was huge when Twitter first allowed you to like put like your gender or whatever, however you
Yes.
like.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
it was
This
a
was
pronoun
this was the
thing.
one that started
she,
it all.
She was being funny and put beep bop boop, and everybody lost their crap because she put in her gender beep bop boop.
She
and
was
they
talking
said,
about R2D2.
and
Yeah.
she said,
She was
"Well,
joking around.
she's just making fun of people who identify differently from others." And it's
as
like,
droids,
I mean,
it's like that's what she's being funny, saying she identifies as a droid.
if you can identify as Zer, why can't she identify as beep bop boop? I mean,
Right.
But,
I don't.
But
I
she
don't know
they
why.
lost her crap. Then she tweeted, "I'm not against trans lives at all. They need to find less abusive representation." I don't know why that's offensive.
There's nothing. Nothing. None of this is offensive. None of this.
Now, one of our viewers, she said that she compared the Jewish experience to the conservative one. Here's how it's different. Being a conservative has hardly ever affected anyone's life in a major way. In Nazi Germany, the Jewish people were systematically removed from every facet of society. On the other hand, conservative politicians hold a little under 50% of the legislative power in the United States
Okay,
today.
yeah,
That's
here's
not
the
a
thing.
comparison.
And we agree, but what,
I agree, but I don't get that from her statement.
That, I don't either.
Yeah, she never
What
said
she's
that,
drawing, the comparison she's drawing.
This is how it starts.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is the beginning. No one is arguing that we are like Nazi Germany right now. She was comparing there. She wasn't even comparing what was going on in
I
concentration.
don't think she ever compared
she
the
was
Jewish
simply
experience.
comparing-
We're a few steps away from our government becoming like
Exactly.
Nazi Germany.
She
No,
was-
I'm not
I-
saying
I-
that's. I'm
Again,
not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying
not
when you
trying
start
to be
censoring people.
hyperbolic. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to be
right,
hyperbolic
right.
about the issue. All that I think is going on is people who are speaking out, who are in her situation. She just got fired
Yeah.
because she expressed opinions that she had
All
that
she
were
said is-
not
all she's basically said
abhorrent.
is, if you're
as
not
if that-
cautious,
Yeah,
this could
yeah.
happen. And
Right.
I agree, yeah.
And the fact that Disney would even not only fire her, but then release the tweet saying that they cannot have someone like that working for them. It's abhorrent what she wrote. There is nothing freaking abhorrent about it. You all are ridiculous panty waists. You're freaking pushovers. You're pansies, and you all need to freaking fact check your other people that are working for you that have said way worse and posted way worse things. And the fact that Pedro Pascal, should you hold him to the same standard and fire him, but you don't want to get rid of the
I think-
Mandalorian.
I think
you
his-
don't want to get rid of a #1 Disney Plus show.
His tweet
You're
and her
freaking
tweet,
hypocrites.
I felt like are on the same level. If you find her tweet offensive, I don't think it was any worse than what he tweeted, comparing children in cages to Nazi Germany. And when it wasn't even like Sean said, it was from.
I mean, he said
2010, not even
hashtag
when-
This Is America.
Yeah, and
How
it
more
wasn't even-
hyperbolic could you
Right.
be?
And it wasn't even
America.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely insane what they're able to get away with
Yeah.
when you're on the left side of the aisle. And the fact is, Dennis Prager, a great radio show host that I listen to, he says it best. And he's like, being on the left side of the aisle means never having to say you're sorry. And that's the very thing. And what he means by that is, yeah, you'll have these people who come out with these half-assed apologies,
Yep.
but they'll be able to get away with the most atrocious thing. The fact that Kathy Griffin can still get a job.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that even what's-his-name is back.
James
Yeah.
Gunn.
No, not James Gunn. But
here's
even
the
he apologized. But no, recently I'm forgetting it. Freaking Wild and Out host. He basically said white people were savages.
Oh, Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon.
Yes.
Now has a job
Yeah.
back on the radio.
Yeah.
Is allowed to
Well,
be
Kathy
back.
Griffith, she took the photo of the severed Trump thing. Like she took that down, and then on
was crying profusely.
on election day, she put it back
Yeah,
up.
she
As
reposted
soon as
it.
Biden got
Oh,
the presidency,
huh.
she put it back
Yeah,
up.
and it's still
because
up.
now they know they can.
Yes.
There's nothing that's going to stop them or hold them back now, and that's why 2 weeks after he became president, they started taking down Parler and taking down
And
all
that's
of
what
these.
makes me mad. It's the double standard.
It is a double
It's
standard.
listen. I honestly don't care that Kathy Griffin. It's sick, but let her post the picture of her and
Right.
Trump severed
There
head.
should be
But
consequences
at the
for
same
it.
time, if nothing happens to her, then nothing should happen to someone else.
Right.
If someone was to post
That
a
doesn't
picture
have
of-
anything remotely the same.
Right.
That's what I'm
What's
saying.
funny, Gina Carano, she's a fourth generation Italian American.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the Italians were knocked on by Hitler too.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like,
Well,
she's not
they were
even
allies.
well, they were allies by force.
Yeah.
Their people were still killed by
I mean,
Nazis.
you didn't get in line.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, that's kind of the point she's making with the idea that, you know, it takes more than just, and it takes coercion and it takes people saying that this is okay.
Her mere point
that's the
was
reason
that-
why the whole argument of cancel culture existing, that's what the point of all this is.
Yeah.
The fact that you would even try to denounce the fact that it doesn't exist is part of the problem. The fact that anybody can come out and say things that would get them fired when what they said is nowhere near what has been spouted in
Yeah.
other circles, private or public, and that there are not consequences on both sides of the aisle.
It's the double standard.
That is
Yep.
exactly what we're
And-
drawing
and
the line
teaching
for.
people
Yep.
that double standard is okay is what is the dangerous thing. Teaching people that it's like it's okay to have any opinion you want unless you have this opinion,
Yep.
then you're
Yes.
evil. That's where what she was trying to point out is that teaching people that certain opinions are evil while all the other ones are good can be a dangerous thing.
Right. And never mind, it's not about the right of Disney being able to fire her. Of course, Disney has that chance. But the fact that they are so woke as they consider themselves to be, and the fact that they think that this is the right step is the problem. And unless we hold these corporations accountable for their decisions and making these poor decisions and making them on an account of trying to say that they are woke or that they think this is what the populace thinks, this is when we as the people have to stand up to them and say, no, you are not in agreement with what our actual American values are. And the fact that you are an American company and you will allow these things to happen and go on is against the very fabric at which, you know, weaves us together as a culture and as a society. And unless that changes and unless we as a society rise up and fight that, it's going to continue.
We've talked about
It's
a lot
gonna
of the
continue.
negative, but we haven't touched on the fact that Hollywood tried to cancel her, but she has basically been uncanceled. She has
Yeah.
found
New
support.
employment.
She is now going to be producing
Starring
and
and
starring.
producing,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's starring and producing in a movie that's going to be produced by the Daily Wire, the same people that produced Run, Hide, Fight, which we
Yeah.
reviewed.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually one of the people that runs it, Ben Shapiro, is Jewish himself.
Yeah.
And he said
He had no problem with the statement
he
she made.
stated that
Yeah,
he
yeah.
doesn't care for like you said hyperbolic like Holocaust. He doesn't think anybody should make like, you know, Holocaust like comparisons like that.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't find it offensive, and at the same time he thought what she said again was true, and he agreed with it. And he has now him and his company Daily Wire reached out to her, and now they're going to be producing a film together. And the whole point of this is to fight that cultural snapback, to
Well,
say,
of
hey,
course.
Yeah.
And that's
you can't
exactly
just cancel
what we
people
need.
for not doing anything that
and again,
severe.
exactly. And I don't think I think that's the right thing and the right step is you have to do more than just speak out against the cancel culture. You have to retaliate. And that's the sad thing is I don't want 20 years ago, I would have said it is wrong to boycott a company because of a certain political stance. Sadly, we have been forced now and brainwashed and manipulated into thinking that we have to act this certain way. And the reason why is because they've given us no choice. If you are on one political side of the aisle, you are going to either be shut out and stamped out, or otherwise you have to support your other collective people who think the way you do. Otherwise, if you go along with the mainstream, if you go along with big tech and big corporations, they are pushing a left side agenda, and the left side of the aisle, sadly, is upstream of the politics. They control the culture, and unfortunately, because you have so many who are in that arena that control the way culture and information flow, you then have this manipulation that all of us either have to abide by, or we're shut up and we're stamped out. And that's exactly why I think the fight that Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, and people like Gina Carano are trying to wage that battle at the forefront. They are the ones who have the popular mindset. I mean, trust me, there are a lot of conservatives who are out there who are not spoken, who haven't spoken out, who are in the shadows. And what we have to do is create and cultivate a culture and a presence in which it is okay to come out and speak out politically and have those individual thoughts. And if we do so collectively, I mean, 74 million people didn't vote for one person just to shut up and not be listened to. Mm-hmm. And what we have to do is not just listen to those voices in the silence. We have to bring those voices out into the public and say, look, we will be heard.
Hearing this statement of we need to unify, but then we keep getting smacked on the hand when it's like, well, you're not unifying because you don't believe what we believe.
Unify unless...
It's like, no, that's not what unity is forcing people to believe the way you believe. We need to come together and reach across the aisle and be able to discuss our differences and come to compromises, not say, hey, unless you think like I do, you're evil.
Right.
And that is the problem. Until America can say, I'm willing to accept that you think this way and I think this way, and let's see how we can compromise, we're going to constantly be at each other's throats.
No doubt. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is exactly the war we're waging with this show, with anything out there in our daily lives. I mean, I'll be the first person to admit I'm not the most verbal when it comes to even, at work. It's like I know I have to be quiet about certain views that I may have because, again, depending on the atmosphere, you don't know. When you see something like this happening on the scale that it is, you can sit here and say that, oh, she didn't get fired because, she was a bad employee. You can't expect to say certain things and not have consequences. Agreed. But nothing she
when
said
you have to walk on
was
eggshells,
worth firing.
Because I agree. I know the work atmosphere you were in. I wouldn't say mine. Mine currently I don't have a problem with, but previous employers,
yes,
I wouldn't say were as
strict or stringent
as where you have worked. But at the same time, there's been plenty where if I say an idea that is a conservative or Christian idea, they treat you like, well, what is wrong with you? How could you be such a I thought like
you're a leper.
They would act like well, I always thought you were a good person. It's like, well, I am a good person,
right?
So they, that's how they act.
That's the exact problem.
If you say,
they might not come right out and say it like that, but you can tell.
They have their heart and their opinion.
So sometimes it's easier not to say anything.
Their heart and their opinion towards you changes, and it's sad that we're now. It's sad. Politics should be a backseat in everybody's life, because at the end of the day, politics is a way in which it's a means in which we get things done as a community, as a collective. And sadly, because it's taken on such a presence in our life, and there is such a huge infrastructure in centralized government of making it such a huge part of our lives, it now dictates so many aspects that it shouldn't. And there should be ways in which we can commune with our other brothers and sisters on either side of the aisle that allow us to actually have peace and harmony without having to sit here and say, well, you're a bad person because you think this.
We need a rainbow coalition.
We
of
do.
The entire, of the entire country.
We need a Fred Hampton again. That was the other thing. I didn't understand why they called it Black Messiah. And I'm like, don't you think that's a little much of a disservice to Martin Luther King Jr.?
That was kind of like that was the FBI's little nickname for him because they were afraid he was going to start this.
We've seen that throughout history.
Right. Well, that was the one thing I agree on now. Screw the FBI and the CIA. That's right. They're coming after me now.
Probably are. You can't say,
here's
say things like that.
I mean, to be honest with you, what's a movie that has painted the FBI in a positive light?
Oh, I mean, there's tons of them out there, I think. I mean, in terms of you got The Fugitive. The FBI is kind of...
That's the U.S. Marshals, dude.
Oh.
Sorry.
Whoa. You're right.
The U.S. Marshals are...
They're good guys.
They're good guys.
They're good guys.
Hinky. Why are you saying hinky?
Yeah, I know.
Actually, I don't. I know there's an FBI show, and they try to paint them in a good light. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one. I know J. Edgar's another Clint Eastwood film, but I don't think they paint that in such a... I haven't seen that one. I don't know. I haven't watched that one. So I'm not sure. All I know is there's a lot... Just like...
The government tries to cover stuff up. And that's not even a conspiracy thought. I know some people are like, oh, people believe it's...
I should have long before had my doubts. But let's just say... After the debacle with Comey and the Hillary emails, I pretty much lost all faith
in the
central
FBI.
Government.
And
its ability
faith in
to
our
do
agencies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it's like I do believe there are the tentpole people who keep America safe from foreign invaders.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And trust me, I believe that we're safe here in America.
It's like
I just think there's only you can only get so big before there's a level of corruption that you can't control.
People. And people
fallible,
are fallible, and we do get corrupt. And any organization, especially the bigger it gets, is going to have good people and corrupt people.
Yes.
And sometimes when the good people shut up and don't say anything, the corrupt people continue to gain power and make the organization they work for corrupt.
Yep.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the fact is what happens when the good don't do anything is evil prevails. And that's exactly what I think we're facing. That is
all those who gain power are afraid to lose it. Revenge of the Sith.
With great power comes great responsibility.
And then I was thinking of Dark Knight when he's like, okay, you live long enough to, or what was it?
You either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself
yep,
become the villain.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's such good. Nolan's great. Nolan's great.
Gain power, fear to lose it. even the Jedi.
Well, I love the meme that Ben Shapiro's been tweeting out that has Anakin getting ready to kill the younglings.
Yes.
And it says here's what does it say? Here's free speech, or here's someone
people who have a
different
viewpoint
opinion,
than you,
and then Disney is
Anakin with the
lightsaber.
Which and that's the funny part.
Master
Here
Skywalker.
it is.
Yeah.
You
What are we going to
fire.
do?
You fire. I mean, that's the irony of it. You fire a rebel in the show.
Yes.
And she is a rebel in real life.
Now she's
And it's like, Disney, you are the Sith.
Yep.
You don't realize you're the
Yeah.
Sith.
You
That's,
created the rebellion.
that's
Right.
all. Yeah. That's all you have to do is break it down in that way. And I'm telling you, we'll get all the Star Wars nerds on our side. I mean, they already really were.
A lot of
but
them
it's
are.
just
There's a petition as of 2 days. I don't know what it's at now, but 2 days ago it hit 10,000 votes or signatures petitioning Disney to rehire Gina Carano. And here's my thing about that.
I don't want them to.
I don't. Here's the
I
thing.
want her to say no.
I want them to change their mind. I don't think they will. They did for James Gunn because he's more left-minded, but I don't think they would for Gina Carano. But if they did, I'm with Brandon. I would hope she would say, no, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
Well, because again, I think the way it's different in the James Gunn situation because he truly was sorry, and I mean the same
He
way in which,
deserved to what happened to him was just as bad as what's happened to her. But the difference is they were willing to extend that olive branch because he has the same.
and he was
opinion.
respectful enough on both ends to be like, I already apologized for this. Of course, I'm sorry.
Honestly,
same with Kevin
someone
Hart
is,
when
though,
he
with
shut down
James
the
Gunn,
Oscars.
they were bringing up crap that he said 10 years ago.
Exactly.
I
But that's
actually-
the thing. You can't say anything now
No.
publicly. And if you
They
were
try
going
to drag you
And
into
if you
this
don't,
too.
but if you don't say anything today, they'll find something you said 10 years ago. That's the
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Exactly. You
But
can never be
I would say
woken up.
They tried to drag him into this too, and I was actually glad that because they did. They just like, oh well, nobody, and they tagged him in it and everything like that. Nobody told James Gunn because I guess they were trying to elicit some type of response or reaction
Right,
to
yeah.
the fact that he was fired and got hired back, and now she's been fired, and all he said was, "I'm not touching this." And I was like, you know what? I was like,
I applaud you.
Good
Yeah.
for, I was like,
Probably
good for
should.
you, James Gunn.
But to me, it's exactly like the Kevin Hart issue. I love the fact that he's like, look, I'm not apologizing again. I've already apologized. And I'm not going to host the Oscars.
And
like
I'm glad-
simple as that. And
and
I'm
I'm
glad
glad he did
did
that. I'm glad
because
he
you've
said,
got to
"Screw
start
you."
standing
Yeah.
up for these people and saying, look, screw you. I'm not going to take, if you're not going to take my apology, then I'm not going to accept your olive branch because at the end of the day, you're not really extending it because you want to. You're only doing it because you got pressure from people who are now giving it. But you should have already had that opinion to begin with.
I agree completely that a lot of what's going on today is because of a lack of people speaking out.
Yes.
But you also have to consider the fact, though, too, that when people do speak out, they're humiliated. They're fired. They're,
of course.
I mean, look at Parler. We've talked about Parler. Here's Twitter censoring conservatives. So somebody said, you know what? Screw you, Twitter. I'm going to create Parler, and I'm going to create a competing platform, and I'm going to take millions,
But you're not able
hundreds
to.
of millions of your people away. And then as soon as you do, Twitter calls up Amazon, and they drop you
not
off
just
their
that.
server.
No,
they
it was Apple and
completely-
Google
Apple
pulled
and
it,
everybody
pulled the app
right. I'm
first,
just
then
saying
then Amazon pulled
it's
it.
even having a voice now. We've let it get to the point where now even if you do decide to speak now, it's too late.
Well, and but again, I think that is exactly the point.
That's what they
of
want
her-
you to think.
Well, that's exactly the point of her tweet. And for those who are skeptical and don't think this is a real thing,
Yeah,
look no
she's
further
living
than
proof.
her and the incident with Parler. The fact is we have a sense of
Parler-
government
but
control
Parler was a
and
platform for hate speech, though, so it's justified.
Well, of course.
See?
That's the thing.
That's what they do.
That's exactly what they want you to think, and that's exactly how they twist the narrative.
Yep.
They make you believe that people who were involved in these certain tweets or in these certain groups that you are a hateful person. They make you think that
I try
Parler
to
was
be.
only a way to gather for Antifa and people who wanted to go and do the riots in January 6th at the Capitol. The fact of the matter is that this is the war we're waging. This is exactly what we have to fight. This is why big tech is too powerful. And this is exactly what we have to do as a community to stand up against. And the only way we can do that is, wielding that power that we do have in the legislative branch and in government and letting our voices be heard. And I think there's select few out there, but it is about getting involved. And I think, for one, I can argue all day that central government's way too big. But at the same time, right now, in order to shrink it, we have to depend on those who are there that have the power to shrink it back to what it should be. And I think that's what we saw with the Trump era, and I think that's why you have people who are, look, people weren't pissed at Trump because, it's like he said in one of his speeches. They weren't pissed at him because of who he was. They were pissed at him because he represented the people behind him. And they thought we were the deplorables. That's exactly what they think of everybody who supported him or who stood for anything that he stood for. They will count you out immediately, and they will ostracize you. And that's what we're up against in this society and in this culture to this day and age. And I'm sorry, but it's only coming from one side of the aisle. They want to silence you. They want you to feel like you do not have a voice unless it is the voice that they wield. And that is what we're fighting against.
I agree, but I think we've ran this dead horse way into the ground.
The dead horse.
We've turned this horse into glue.
We
need to just
we
move
pulverized
on.
Gorilla
glue?
Yes,
put it in our hair.
Just don't put it in your hair. I'm ready to move on to something a little bit more fun. Not because it was good, but because
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's going to be that much fun.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock.
I think it's gonna be a lot
probably...
of fun bashing it. So
Yeah.
let's get to the wrap up of The Stand.
Multimedia.
Multimedia.
We told you we only had one topic for this week.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get a little passionate. It's worth talking about.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it's a big enough issue, and I'm sorry. I think this one, literally the news broke last week. We had to talk about it because it stayed with us all week.
Yeah.
But now we're ready to move on to our multimedia segment. And something far less entertaining, or entertaining in all the wrong ways.
Okay, I think what we have to say is probably going to be more entertaining than what we watched, because it is our multimedia segment, and it is the end of the Stand miniseries, the remake.
Sure is,
and we can finally tell you how we felt about the entire thing, that we've seen it all, and it's just. I didn't like it from the get-go. But it definitely got worse around it's episode 6 when Trash Can Man steps up.
It was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a little more than halfway through, it went for me from being. I didn't think it was just absolutely horrible. I didn't like it, but it was mediocre.
It was absolutely horrible.
No. I'm talking about the first few episodes.
Okay.
And then we get to Trash Can Man, and it went from mediocre to just
Sean does it the best.
downright. Yeah, he does
You
the
do?
best.
You do?
Yeah. I for you. I told Sean the final episode when
he
he's
was having
laying
an
on the
orgasm
bomb and
every
he's
time
all
he says
burnt
it.
up, and I don't understand what mentally challenged person he's watched.
Yeah.
But none of them have this just out there look on their face. Like
Right.
they're not.
Are they allowed to do that anymore?
What?
I mean,
What
our
are-
culture today, can we portray a mentally handicapped person
I don't
like
think
that
so.
anymore?
I'm
sorry,
well-
they're not handicapped either.
Well, and here's
See, I don't even know what words I'm supposed to use.
you don't because
No.
you're not woke.
But
All
I
I
mean,
know
we
is-
can't do that anymore.
no, they should have gotten somebody who actually
Was
had those
handicapped.
Yes.
abilities.
Why
That's-
didn't
yeah.
they do that?
They got the kid from Peanut Butter Falcon. He would have been way better than Ezra Miller, because
Actually, I think so.
that kid actually is a good actor. Ezra Miller was.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, how
Bird
does that
face.
display? I'm like, that is not how. Like, I'm sorry. I've met a lot of mentally handicapped people, and none of them walk around.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think he was. I really don't think he was portraying somebody mentally handicapped. I think he was just deranged.
Nuts.
And
yeah.
But the thing is even
Well, that's
for
not
a
how
deranged
Trash
person.
Can Man's not supposed. He's supposed to be slightly like mentally.
And
you
again,
know.
if you know the source material, you know how bad an adaptation this was for that.
yeah.
I couldn't take him. Every time I saw him, I was like, "What is he doing?
I don't know.
He's awful."
Yeah.
Again, I go back to just the absolute. Ezra Miller's one of the worst actors I've ever seen.
Right.
He's taking the cake on Jared Leto.
Oh,
Even
you-
in the new
No,
Justice League
Jared
trailer.
Leto's a good actor when he wants to be.
Exactly.
Jared
He
Leto-
can
What
be.
has Ezra Miller done?
Yes.
Nothing.
Nothing.
That's ever been any
Nothing.
good.
Nothing.
He's terrible as the Flash. He's god awful in everything that I've seen him in.
Freaking
especially this
Fantastic Beasts, he wasn't very good either.
No.
He's just god awful.
That might be his best performance, but it still wasn't like good. So
No.
But ultimately, here's what did it for me, and this is when I saw the scene and I thought, this is when I really decided, okay, we need to have the rating scale for how much water we could give to kids in Africa for how much this was actually made.
You might wanna
I thought,
get your dog to go over there.
Oh,
She's
no,
getting in the
it's-
cords.
oh, come here,
How
here,
about-
pup.
look, they could have given a lot of kids in Africa some water with this garbage at it. It's like they should have never made it. They should have just donated that
It's
money
the
to
Matt
Africa.
Damon scale.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, yeah.
And I think I did
That's what
calculate
we should call it.
It's the Matt Damon scale.
It's
The
the Matt
water,
Damon
scale.
water
Matt Damon scale.
Yeah, I forget the actual group that he used.
That's what we need to do.
It's actually there's a group.
The name
that
of
it's
the
called,
group,
and I
yes.
forgot
I'm going
what
to Google it.
I think it's like called Water Step.
Well, you keep
The
talking.
water
I'm gonna
step
Google
scale
Is that what it's
it-
called?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
That's
look
what
it
we're
up.
gonna call it.
Find out what the general cost is, and I think I did calculate it in terms of like from The Martian and how much it was, and it was a ridiculous number. It was like millions of gallons that could have been produced,
Yeah.
and millions of dollars that could have saved
Clean
like-
water. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's
He's just the co-founder of water.org.
Water.org.
oh
Wow.
okay, well
That's original.
maybe that's
It's
what
the
it is.
H2O Africa Foundation.
Okay,
Oh,
well we
yeah.
need to look up
So
how much money it
It's
costs.
the H2O Africa scale.
We could have.
That's
we
what
could
we're-
have given water to way more than
On
Africa.
the H2O, it's like on the H2O Africa scale, how many bottles of water could we have given Africa instead of this adaptation?
instead of this piece of crap film and or miniseries.
Miniseries.
What'd you say? What they say the average bottle
So-
of water, like $1?
You know how
Well, I
I
don't know.
felt
They have,
about it
They have calculations
at the beginning.
You were
I,
into
I
it.
actually got into it.
Yeah.
I thought it was different. It wasn't what I wanted, because I wanted the original just redone.
Yeah,
but
same.
it's better to just watch the original. But there were aspects of it that I did enjoy, and I did follow it. I was into it after 3. You know, with any show or miniseries, 3 episodes is when I'm in or out.
Yep.
And I was in until they got to the desert and they got to Las Vegas and it introduced Trash Can Man and all of that stuff. And that's when it really started to just bleed and hemorrhage and eventually it didn't have anything left.
Yeah.
And I just didn't enjoy it. I did like the
epilogue.
I liked episode 8.
I thought that was.
I
you
liked
the ending.
I liked how everybody just got splattered by lightning. I thought that was cool.
I didn't like it.
But
either.
it wasn't like, I mean, for the story wise, I didn't think it was
I thought it was goofy.
fitting. But I was just like, oh, that's pretty sick.
To me,
Like that's
chained
pretty
up
awesome.
underwater was stupid too.
Yeah. I didn't like that. I
thought it
wanted
was
them to
stupid.
be, because in the original, aren't they crucified?
Yes. Well, not
They're
in the
not in the original
miniseries.
miniseries,
In
but
the-
in the
in
book
the
they're
no- in the
crucified,
novels,
aren't they?
yeah.
And
They,
so I wanted that.
Yeah.
But I just
My thing is like, first of all, like, them being underwater was goofy. I mean, I don't like
I did like the courtroom scene.
they changed.
I didn't like that either.
See,
I
did.
I thought that was
hated
bogus
that,
because
yeah.
I'm sitting here and
I liked it better
I
in the
can
original
keep
and
an
the
eye-
novel, like when like they're like because Glenn says all that stuff, but he says it when he's locked up, and that's when Lloyd kills it. Like
Shoots
Yes.
him through the
to the
bars.
bars,
Yeah.
and I thought that
Yes.
was much more powerful than the way it happened in the
Well, because
courtroom
again,
scene.
you're sitting here in this debaucherous like New Vegas, and it's like, what kind of order are they going to have?
Well, that's the thing.
They don't care about law and order.
in
Yeah.
the
You know
books,
it's a show and it's a mockery,
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, they're sitting here and they're acting like they're shocked because they saw him get shot, and I'm sitting here like, why the
You've
hell
seen
would
way
they
worse.
care?
Yeah, they have a freaking
Yes.
gladiator pit where people
But
get
that's the thing,
butchered.
None of that's in the book. Like literally, because the whole idea of like New Vegas is that it is supposed to be like utopia, but the secret behind that utopia is that Randall Flagg basically crucifies everybody who steps out of line for the smallest infraction. So
Yeah.
like you do
He
drugs,
builds fear.
You do drugs, you get crucified. You steal a candy bar, you get crucified. It doesn't matter how bad the sin, you get crucified. So they all live in fear of him, but it's a perfect society because there's no crime.
Yeah.
But it's not a perfect society.
This New
Yeah.
Vegas was Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes.
That's
yes.
exactly what they painted
Yeah.
it as. Well, and honestly, even though 8 was where it did it for you, that was where it did it for me in terms of why did they spend money on this? And it was when they literally Randall Flagg's out there in a crowd of people, and I swear music starts playing, and it's this reggae.
Oh, when he
yeah.
starts
and
dancing.
he starts dancing,
Yes.
and I'm like,
Yes, that was
what
terrible.
in the hell?
That was terrible. He
is
was a
this?"
terrible Randall Flagg.
He was.
I just
Hands
didn't
down.
understand it.
Randall
what was
Flagg
the point?
is supposed to be charismatic. So like I got what they were going for in that scene, but my thing is like you've not shown him do anything charismatic
Nothing
It was
like that.
weird.
until this
Yeah.
point, and it came out of nowhere.
Totally
it was
out of
just
place.
Weird.
Yeah. It was like Toby Maguire dancing,
In
walking
Spider-Man
the streets of
3.
New York. Yeah. Yeah.
It was so god
honestly
awful.
the only part of the entire series I felt like he felt like Randall Flagg was the very last scene of the series, which comes directly from the book when he
And that was
washes
good.
up on the island and he's like
with the indigenous
and he's
people.
like
Yeah.
worship me, and I'm like okay, that's because
Well,
he's
and-
an opportunist. He's like I
Yes.
failed there, but these people are ignorant. I could start over again with
and
them.
he has to go to the most primitive
Yes.
type
Right.
of society
Right.
to
Yes.
get that, and that's what I liked. But again, that's King's writing. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like his understanding of.
And that was
who
the
Randall Flagg
episode was
is.
called like the circle closing the circle, or
yeah.
so it was like yeah.
Yeah, but it was that the epilogue wasn't bad.
There were some
for
little
being
things
written for this miniseries.
I appreciated being a King fan. Not that it saved the series. Like the banners on the sides of the courthouse had like the symbol of the Crimson King, which is like who Flag like works for in the Dark Tower series. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And little things like that. But I was like,
it's wasted because
it's
so much of it's bad.
It's a crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can't even get over it. You can't ignore the bad
Yeah.
to be like, oh, this is so cool how they did this.
Yeah.
Such a throwback to all these.
It's like it's
cool
cool. You
nuances.
make a little Easter egg for the Crimson King, but it doesn't
Who
matter.
cares?
'cause
It's
the crap-
wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Overall, I would just. It's a complete pass for me. Don't even waste your time. I'm sorry. I just don't even think it's worth it, even for it only being 9 episodes.
I mean, it's
I'm having
9
more fun
hours,
with
yeah.
WandaVision, which I think we're going to talk about.
I haven't even watched that yet.
Any of it?
I watched the first episode and was turned off.
Oh,
So,
but you said
I
3
gotta,
episodes.
I gotta go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta. I will. I always make that promise. I'll give
Alright.
it 3.
Okay.
But the first episode turned me off,
You're
so
gonna
I
have to
don't
give
know.
it more than that if we're going to review the whole
I
series.
understand that. I understand that. I'm at like 1.5 for the whole stand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 1.5,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm at about.
I give it 1.
It's a total bomb for me.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
I hate
Okay.
to say it. I just
I
didn't
give
like
it.
it at
I give
all.
it 1. I am really enjoying WandaVision right now. But we'll get into that. Well, I guess we'll discuss the whole series on our next multimedia because it'll be over.
it'll
by
be
then.
over by then, which
Yeah.
is perfect. You know,
Yeah.
that'll give us. I think
It'll.
more people probably have tuned in to watch WandaVision.
Yep.
Even though it's on Disney Plus and you should cancel.
I'm not going to.
I
can't.
honestly, I
can't.
watched.
I have kids that
Trust
need
me,
to be.
that's exactly what they expect.
It's
They
something
know
I
people
actually-
are trapped in that way.
I really appreciate it now. Like when Mandalorian season 1 came out and it was a week by week thing, I was kind of like, oh, I don't like that because I'm so used to binging. But season 2 of Mandalorian and then WandaVision itself, I've loved that it's been weekly because
Yes.
it's such a mystery and the way it's been unfolding. I really love that. I
I
can't binge
agree.
it to get the answer. I have to wait because that's what I've been loving. Is it's like what's going on.
Piece
they
by
drop,
piece.
They drop these little hints here. They give you an answer in this episode, but you still have questions and
okay.
it keeps
Don't.
going.
Yeah. Don't ruin it for me.
So I've loved that it's been weekly, and I come home every Friday, and like that's what I do. I come home, straighten my
Uh-oh.
house up, cook, watch WandaVision.
Yeah.
And I love being able to do that. And when the Gina Carano thing first happened, I came home that Friday, and I was like, I want to watch it, but at the same time, I'm really pissed at Disney, and I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
And I did eventually watch it, but not as fast as I normally would have. So
Yep.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
tune into our next multimedia segment in about 4 weeks, and we will talk about all things WandaVision when it's wrapped up, and we'll go over that.
And then after that, Falcon and the Winter Soldier immediately comes out.
Boom. So
and
we'll
that
have
looks
something
really
else to
good.
talk about.
Yep.
I mean, we're keeping this up. We almost might as well turn it back into the TV show. segment. But
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
keeping it multimedia.
I will say if you're
'Cause
looking,
eventually-
if you didn't like The Stand, if you're looking for a mini series, not like a season show, like the Queen's Gambit is fantastic.
Yes, because I know
And I
that's-
am gonna
It
watch
is-
that.
It is fantastic,
I'm
and
gonna
it
watch
is.
that.
Well, WandaVision's only going to be. They said it's probably just to be the one season because not everything Marvel is doing for Disney Plus is going to be multiple.
right, a
seasons.
continuing
Yeah.
series.
Which
it's
I'm
just
glad.
kind of like a mini. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, I
but
think
I want to watch that because I've heard
It
it's really
is-
good.
it is
Okay.
very good.
I've been looking
Yes.
for something to watch, so I think that'll be it.
the
Very
Red
good.
Moon mascot is getting a little restless. I think
She
she's
gotta
gotta
go potty.
pee. And
All right,
which we're,
we
we're
can-
up against our limit
We're
here.
done. Yeah, we've gone.
We've gone over.
Yeah,
a little
and
bit.
I'll
Which,
say too, we
you know-
have had a lot of chatter on
Oh, awesome.
on YouTube and Facebook. So
Yeah,
we
we've
do.
had a lot of
if we
feedback.
didn't answer anything you said, or if we didn't respond to comments or anything like that, I'm sorry.
We'll try to go back.
but we do appreciate.
I'll try to go back
we
after
do
the show
appreciate
and-
the discussion.
That's
Yeah,
sadly that's the time because I'm doing all this here. I can't. I have to go back and listen or watch as they come up or see which comments I can.
I think
the
the bigger ones we definitely replied to. So I do think we hit. It's just we can't do everything, obviously. So.
Right. But we'll try to review those and comment back.
If we missed you, we apologize.
yeah. Don't
But
cancel
thank you
us.
for tuning. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Shoot us if it's something you feel like was really important that we missed.
Hey.
Shoot us an email and
How about
we'll
that?
mention it next week
Plug
on the show.
in that
How would they do
email.
that?
I think you'd go to your emails and you would type in rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
What?
Is
that-
is it up here?
Yeah, it's right there.
rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
That's it.
Okay.
rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
.com.
That's going to do it for this week on the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much. as all of our listeners and watchers have tuned in this week,
She was
continue
getting
to.
me there. Woo.
Oh, she's getting you. What?
No, her nose went somewhere I wasn't expecting,
Oh.
and I was like, "Whoa!"
She's trying to get your attention. Like, I want out of here.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
piss. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this week's episode. Like, share, subscribe to all of us on social media. Red Moon Pics on Instagram, Red Moon Tweet on Twitter, Red Moon Book on
It's hard to
Facebook,
keep
and
up
Red Moon
with 'em.
Predictions on YouTube. Red Moon Productions, just look us up everywhere. Go to our website, redmoonproductions.com. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Quad sodden goat capers, felt line banjo prissy smile Durangos.
Prissy.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.